Welcome to Sigil Spotlight, and I'm going to be using Oracle cards from Teal Swan's The Blind Spot Oracle card deck, and in a second I'm going to show you two cards from her deck, and I'm going to ask you to select one of them. And this card is going to indicate the blind spot that right now is coming up for you in a situation that you're in. So everybody's situation is going to be different. On each card, you're going to notice that there's a sigil. A sigil is a painted seal or a symbol that was originally painted by hand by Teal when she was in a trance state. So the sigil itself does not represent anything, but it's considered to have a living entity in and of itself. The sigil is incredibly powerful, and it's considered to have actually magical powers, and it will help you to bring awareness to the specific blind spot in your life that you're not aware of right now. So I'm going to ask you right now to take a moment to look at these two sigils that I've selected for you right now. And I want you to look at the cards closely. Now you may say something like to yourself, show me what I do not see, or what is my blind spot right now? I want you to really look closely at these cards, and I want you to allow the card to choose you. So you can pause the video right now to examine the two sigils up on the screen. So when you've selected either sigil 1 or sigil 2, I want you to look in the description box below or the comment section where you're going to find a description for the sigil that you've selected. So if you've selected sigil 1, your blind spot is card number 40. And now let me read from Teal Swan's guidebook, and I'll just take a blurb of what she's written. If you have drawn the sigil, you are suppressing. Suppressing is the act of trying to stop yourself from becoming aware of or expressing or acting on something that is arising within you. You can suppress a great many things. For example, you can try to stop yourself from feeling emotions or stuff them down. To stuff down emotions is to silence a personal truth that is desperate to come out. You can try to stop yourself from thinking something, and you can refuse to acknowledge or express a desire or a need, just to name a few. You can only heal emotions and painful perspectives that you let yourself become consciously aware of and whose truths you express. If you've drawn the sigil, you need to stop suppressing in order to get anywhere relative to the situation at hand. All right, so what I'm going to do for you right now is I want to draw some cards from the tarot, and I'm going to be using the Light Seers Tarot deck and also the Rider-Waite for clarification. And I want to see, first of all, what's coming up for you in your shadow in relation to your blind spot. And then I want to get some guidance from the tarot to give you regarding this blind spot that you have, and it'll give you some direction. So, tarot, can you give me a card, please? A card. What's coming up in the shadow? And give me a screen. I just want a card on the top layer. There we go. We got the Hangman in reverse, and a second card for what guidance can the tarot give you? What guidance can the tarot give us right now? What guidance can the tarot give us in regards to, we have the Two of Pentacles that's come out. All right, so now I'm going to clarify these two. So two cards for clarification for the Hangman, please. Two cards for clarification. We have the Page of Swords in upright. I'm going to pick the Star card, kind of popped out here. Okay. We have the Star card. All right, so Two of Pentacles, what guidance? Guidance from the tarot, please. Clarification for the Two of Pentacles. We have the Chariot. And we have one more card, please. One more card. Guidance from the tarot. One more card. Guidance from the tarot. This one flipped. And we have the Seven of Wands. Okay, so what's coming up in your shadow for you? So we have the Hangman, and it's in reverse. So let's look at this card first of all. We have this individual that is hanging from this I don't know what you would even call that when you're hanging from the sort of this trapeze or, yeah, so she's hanging upside down. And, you know, if that were me, I think I would be in a lot of fear, but she doesn't look scared at all. She's quite comfortable in the position that she's in. And it's because, you know, this card represents, in the upright, it represents someone that's kind of turned upside down, not anything that's frightening or anything that would be full of anxiety. It's just you're starting to see things in a new perspective. That would be the upright position of this one, where you're starting to, things are sort of, you're becoming more aware. And when it becomes in the reverse, there is a resistance, or there's just sort of a denial of what is actually going on. And so this is what's coming up in your shadow, is there's sort of a denial of what's coming up in your shadow. Because the Page of Swords is the next card. And the Page of Swords, all my court cards, first of all, are parts. I do parts therapy in my own shadow work journey. And so the my pages represent that younger, very young part of us. And if you think of any child, one thing I know about children is that they're very authentic. They're very intuitive, actually, until that gets all sort of shut down from adults around them or people around them. And they're very creative. And the Swords is all about your mind. The Swords is about, you know, cutting through the bullshit to get through your authenticity and who you really are. And this Page of Swords is coming out with this childlike energy of just wanting to discover or find out the truth about yourself and who you really are. Because, you know, there is another perspective to who you really are in this hanged man, but we've already established that is in, it's sort of in denial, or there's a resistance to it. Because the Star comes out with your other Page of Swords, with the other cards for your shadow. And the Star is all about this feeling of peace. And this particular card comes after the Tower, I believe, because the Tower moment in anybody's life can cause just a lot of chaos for people and a lot of pain sometimes. And this Star moment comes out when you've worked through a significant amount of whatever you've been working on with your shadow, and this Star moment comes in, and sometimes it doesn't last for long, because then we get into another cycle of working through our stuff. And so this particular moment in time is such a peaceful, beautiful, relaxing place to be. And so your shadow wants you to take your life sort of in a different direction, where you're going to start to look at a different perspective of yourself and find out, you know, who am I? Because once you start to do that, you can get into this more peaceful kind of place. So the direction for our that the tarot wants to take us in right here, and remember that the card was about, the blind spot was about how these suppression of emotions is coming up. And it is through our emotions that we actually get to who we really are. And this is what your shadow part is coming up for you to start to discover. There's another side of you, that whole hangman perspective, where, you know, you put yourself upside down and you start to think, well, maybe there is something else that I don't know about myself. Because the guidance from the tarot starts with the Two of Pentacles. And the Two of Pentacles has this person kind of swinging these two pentacles around, trying to figure out exactly, you know, which way to go, what to do. So there's a decision to be made here. There's a choice to be made. And the tarot says, well, the Chariot card comes out, which is significant because it's major arcana. And the Chariot is all about movement. And the Chariot there's an energy of there needs to be movement here. But in this card, you can see that these sphinxes aren't even moving. you know, this charioteer looks like he's guiding them somewhere and they're going somewhere, but it's not moving. So there is some movement that needs to take place here. But what's coming up for you is the Seven of Wands in reverse. And the Seven of Wands talks about upright, talks about an individual here who has decided to go on this healing journey, and he's at the top of this hill and he's battling all these other people below him. And for some reason, these people below cannot support him at all. They're invalidating him, and he's finding it a real battle to go out on his own and do what he wants to do, to find out who he wants to be. And it's in the reverse here. So that tells me that your resistance to go inwards, your resistance to try to find out who you really are, comes from maybe you're not feeling supported by people around you. And so on this journey, we're often going to find that once we start to go inwards and try to find out, you know, who we really are and who the authentic, you know, what's this other part of me that I don't know, this hangman perspective that I need to take. Oftentimes when we begin, there are people that are not going to support us. There are people that are not going to validate us. And so this card, you know, says that there are some difficulties here that you're having with that. And, you know, it becomes a journey of really doing this alone and making that big decision to do it alone. So if you've selected Sigil 2, this is your reading. You've selected number 12, which is your goodness. Now let me read a blurb from Teal Swan's guidebook. If you've drawn this sigil, in this situation, you and perhaps other people do not see your own goodness, your capability, or your excellence. Maybe you are not feeling good enough. Perhaps you are looking at other people and wishing you were as good as they are. Perhaps you are perpetually caught in self-doubt, self-blame, or self-criticism. You don't see the truth of yourself clearly because you are seeing yourself through an inaccurate, negative light. Ask yourself, what am I so afraid will happen if I admit to what is truly good and excellent about me? What am I so afraid of that will happen if I express this to other people? If you've drawn this sigil, you need to admit to what is good about you and capable about you and excellent about you, especially relative to the situation at hand. And the other people involved in the situation need to do this too. In this situation, both you and those around you have a serious blind spot relative to that goodness. Instead, all you and potentially they see is badness and wrongness. So what I want to do right now is to find out what's coming up in your shadow in regards to this blind spot that you have. And then I want to get some cards from the Rider-Waite and the Light Seers Tarot to give you some guidance about this. So let's start right now with the Light Seers Tarot. I want one card that's coming up that, and I'll just take one card that is linked to this blind spot that's coming up in my shadow. So one card that's coming up in my shadow right now. One card that's linked to this blind spot. Just one card. Okay, the Knight of Wands in reverse. And what guidance can the tarot give? Oh, that was fast. The Emperor comes out, flies out of there. All right, so the Emperor card. All right, so let's go to clarification right now. So clarification for the Knight of Wands. Clarification for the Knight of Wands. 2 cards, please. 2 cards for clarification for the Knight of Wands. I'm going to pick that one. The World card. The Knight of Wands. And one more card, please. One more card for clarification. You have the 2 of Swords. And cards to clarify the Emperor. 2 cards, please. The Hangman. Actually, that came up like this. The Hangman upright. And the 10 of Wands. Okay, so let's take a look at what's coming up for this blind spot of yours in your shadow. Okay, And remember, you know, the blind spot was about your goodness and sort of in denial, and you're not seeing yourself. So you're seeing yourself in a negative light here. So what's coming up in your shadow? The Knight of Wands in reverse. Okay, so the Knight of Wands upright. For me, my knights are what I call the freedom fighter part of you. So that's this adolescent part of you that wants to be free from any control, that wants to free to do what they want to do. I was a high school teacher all my life, and the one thing I knew about adolescents is that, you know, they wanted to be authentic, they wanted to be free, and they wanted to do what the hell they wanted to do. And this is this part of you that you have in you, and it's in reverse right now. So the wands are about creativity, and so that really kind of, I like the wands, the Knight of Wands, in that, you know, there's this movement in you that wants to take place. There's something in you that wants to get out and just be creative, whether it's you have some project in mind, you just want to do something different, right? You want to be creative and you want to express your authenticity. And you know that, and in your shadow, what's coming up is it's in reverse, right? So there is this block to expressing it, because the shadow is saying, you know, you can have the world, and there's so many infinite possibilities out there for you to be creative, and maybe you have that nudge to be creative, and the shadow saying, you know, there's so many things you can do, because a lot of times when we kind of get this nudge to want to do something, it's like, but I just don't know what I want to do, or I don't know how to do it, or I don't know how to get this project I have in mind out. And the sword says here, the Two of Swords is this individual sitting there having to make a choice. You know, having to make a choice what to do. There's so many options out there for you, but they're blindfolded, this person. And the fact that it's swords tells me that you're really in your head. And you're almost like spinning around this in your head, telling yourself all these things that, you know, maybe I'm not talented enough, or I'm not good enough, and there's no way I can do this. There's just no way. And you're not even considering any options, because you're totally blindfolded to everything that's coming up right now for you. And so you see really no other avenue you can take. You just don't sort of see a way out of this part of you that wants to break free and become creative, and you just don't know where to take this. And so the advice that's coming up for you is the Emperor card. And Mr. Emperor, I call him Mr. Emperor just to give him a little bit of respect, but he's number 4 in the major arcane, and he's a big card. And if you think of the journey of the Fool, as he goes through, you know, the major arcane, these major life events that comes up for him. And the number 4 is a very solid number. It's a very stable, rigid, square number. And if you think of the Emperor in the Rider-Waite deck, he's dressed in this iron, he's in this cement block chair that he's become part of, because he's so old, he's been sitting there forever. And this is what the Emperor represents to me. It's a masculine energy, and it's and if you think of the Fool going through his journey, and he meets the Emperor, and the Emperor's kind of like that father-like figure for him. He meets the Empress, and he meets the Emperor, and the Emperor is the father-like figure, you know, the one that gives you all the rules and how you're supposed to do things and how you're not supposed to do things. But the Emperor's like, this is old stuff, right? This is old stuff that's sitting in your head, is sitting in your shadow right now, and in your head saying, you know, I'm not good enough. I don't know how to do this. I can't do this. I can't be creative. I don't know how to be creative. This is old stuff that you've been told by other people when you were younger. Really, really old stuff, old stories, and you keep spinning them in your head, and so much so that you put a blindfold on, and that's what you're believing, because that's what's stuck in your shadow, right? These ideas that this Emperor person has told you when you were a young person says, you know, you can't do these things or you can't be creative. And so the Hangman comes up, another major arcane, and the Hangman comes up, and you know, he's upside down. And in no way is this Hangman in discomfort at all. He's quite comfortable where he is. And so the tarot is coming up here to say, you know what? You need to take your life you know, you need to look at things in a new perspective. The Emperor is old, right? That's old shit that's sitting in your system, in your belief system. You need to start taking your life in a new direction. And you need to look at things in a new perspective. It's kind of like this. I look at the Hangman as this kind of individual it's an eye-open experience, right? Like maybe there is something in there, you know, creative that you can do, and you can do it, and maybe you need to sort of start thinking that, oh, maybe I can, because the Ten of Wands is the last card that comes up here, and that's a beautiful card in that you've been struggling a while, and I can tell because you've been sitting on this for a bit and not knowing sort of which way to go, right? Not knowing, because you're pretty much in your head trying to figure this out. And so this Ten of Wands is, these wands, I look at this Ten of Wands like, you know how, I remember one day I went and bought a bunch of helium balloons and I was trying to get them, push them all into my vehicle, and they're wanting to fly up in the air, right? You cannot hold down creative wands. It's impossible. It's kind of like pulling those helium balloons down, but they're gonna fly away. And you know, he's trying to hold them down. These aren't heavy burdens here. He's trying to hold these creative wands down. And so the tarot is saying, as much as you try to deny in your head that you have this, and you know, as much as this individual, Mr. Emperor, has said you can't do this, you know, you can. You can. So let those creative wands go. This is the 10. They want to go. They want to go somewhere. So the tarot says, you know, it's time. It's time to take a new perspective and a new outlook on your life, and start maybe contemplating and thinking, you know, maybe there is something I can do. Maybe I can do this. Just maybe I can turn this around. Maybe these ideas that people told me about myself, maybe they're not mine. Yeah, maybe they belong to someone else.